There are two things people say about expensive telephoto lenses, and both of them are wrong. The first is that you need one, that the gap between your photos and the ones you keep seeing online is a piece of glass you can't afford. The second is the correction to that, which is that gear doesn't matter at all, and it's the photographer. You hear that one constantly, and usually from somebody holding a very good lens. They're both wrong, and they're wrong in a sense that costs you either way. The first tells you to spend money on a problem you don't have. The second talks you out of the one purchase that would actually fix the problem you do have. And that's the question I want to answer today. What problem does an expensive wildlife lens actually solve? If we haven't met yet, my name is John Mendoza. I'm a wildlife, landscape, and astrophotographer living in the Pacific Northwest. Everything you see here is real. It's in my image, it was in front of the lens. I want to say something up front that I've shot with both cheap and expensive lenses, and I want to show you where the difference actually matters and where you're just paying for something you don't need. And stay to the end because I want to show you one of my favorite wildlife photos and why more reach would have actually made the photo worse. So, what does money buy? There are a few things and they're all real. The first one is light, and it's the only item on this list you cannot work around. A faster lens lets in more light because it has a wider maximum aperture. Going from f6.3 to f4 gives you about a stop and a half more of light. That might not sound like much, but at a sunrise, it can be the difference between shooting at 1/1000th of a second instead of 1/320. One freezes the bird, the other leaves you with motion blur. You cannot buy your way around this with technique. With modern noise reduction algorithms, we can shoot at higher ISOs while still maintaining image quality. But there's a floor. You've already pushed your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO as far as you can, and you're still losing shots to insufficient light, then that's not a skill problem, that's a physical limitation. That outlet was inside a pine tree at dusk. That's the situation where an expensive lens stops being a luxury and starts becoming a different tool. The same thing happens with autofocus. Better lenses have faster focus motors and talk to the camera body more quickly. With a bird sitting on a branch, the difference can be very small. If the subject isn't moving much, even a relatively inexpensive telephoto lens can perform perfectly fine. Where better lenses start to earn their place is when the subject is moving quickly and the focusing system has to keep up. A bird flying straight towards you is a different problem from a bird sitting on a branch. The lens has to move the focusing elements quickly and accurately, while the distance to the subject is changing constantly. A bird coming straight at you is one of the hardest things you can ask an autofocus system to deal with. And that's one of the situations where I'd say the better glass can earn its place. Not because the expensive lens magically knows where the bird is, the camera and lens are still doing the work together. But when everything is happening quickly, differences in focusing speed and consistency can mean the difference between getting the shot and getting a frame that's just slightly behind. And then there's sharpness. Expensive lenses often have better optical elements and better glass inside of them. And that can mean more detail, better contrast, and sharper images, especially when you're shooting wide open. Now, I don't want to oversell this because we'll come back to it in a minute. Modern budget lenses are already incredibly sharp. The gap isn't always a cheap lens is blurry and an expensive lens is sharp, but if you put good lenses side by side, especially at the edges of what they're capable of, premium glass can squeeze out that extra bit of detail. Is it night and day? Not always. But is it real? Absolutely. All right, that's the honest case for spending the money. Now, here's what money doesn't buy, and honestly, this is the part that matters more. Cheaper lenses often have a hidden advantage that people don't talk about. They're lighter. A lighter lens is easier to center on a bird, easier to carry for hours, and sometimes easier to handhold when something suddenly flies past. The point isn't that lighter is always better, it's that expensive doesn't always mean easier to use. Remember, every lens comes with trade offs. Second, and this is the big one, it does not buy you reach. This is the one that actually costs people money because it's the assumption behind most of these purchases. You look at your photos, the animal is too small, and you go shopping. But the expensive lenses are usually not longer. A 600mm budget lens has essentially the same reach as a more expensive 600mm lens. Premium versions of these lenses are faster, sharper wide open, and built to handle tougher conditions. They don't magically bring the bird any closer, 600 millimeters is still 600 millimeters. If you want the animal to fill more of the frame, the biggest difference usually comes from learning how to get closer without disturbing it. That's called fieldcraft, and no amount of money can replace it. Third, it doesn't always make you a better photographer. More expensive lens can give you faster autofocus, better stabilization, or a wider aperture. Those things can absolutely help you get shots you might have missed otherwise, but they don't teach you when to take the shot, how to anticipate an animal's behavior, or how to recognize when the light is about to get good. And that's an important distinction. Better equipment can remove some of those limitations, but it can't replace the skills you actually need to get a compelling photo. And fourth, I'll be honest with you, this one took me a lot longer to accept. It does not buy you a better photo. Nothing inside the barrel decides what's in front of it. Whether the animal is doing something, whether the light is any good, whether the background is clean, whether you were even there at the right hour. That's all on the other end of the lens. And it's the entire difference between a photo people stop to look at and a photo people don't. So, how do you know if you're actually the person who would benefit from upgrading to a more expensive lens? Start by looking at why your photos fail. Not why you think they fail, but why they actually fail. They're blurry because you're running out of light at sunrise. A faster lens might genuinely solve that. But if the background is messy, the bird isn't doing anything interesting, or the composition just isn't working, no new lens is going to fix that. Then I want you to ask yourself one simple question. What does my current lens stop me from doing? If you can answer that immediately, you probably know what to upgrade to. If you can't answer it, then there's a good chance a new lens won't change your photography very much. I'm aware this is me talking somebody out of buying the category of lens I own. Genuinely rather see you out 4 mornings a week with a kit zoom than once a month with something that costs $400. Because the person who goes out 4 times a week is going to be a dramatically better photographer in a year than the other one who isn't. And just to be clear here, I'm not giving mine back. I love this lens. It lets me take photos I simply couldn't before. The difference is that I didn't buy it hoping it would make me a better photographer. I bought it because I already knew the exact problem I wanted it to solve. That's the whole point of this video. Now, remember that photo I mentioned in the beginning? This is one of my favorite wildlife photos I've taken to date. And the funny thing is, the expensive lens was almost convincing me to make a worse picture. Everything about a long telephoto lens encourages you to fill the frame. Make the subject bigger, crop tighter, get closer. But if I had done that here, I would have ruined the shot. What makes this shot work is everything around the goslings. The glowing grass, the light coming through behind them, the environment. If I had zoomed in and filled the frame with just the goslings, I would have lost all of that. I had enough reach to get closer, and I chose not to. And that's the lesson expensive lenses can't teach you. They can give you more options, but they don't tell you which option makes the better photograph. That part is still yours. If this video helped you, give it a like. And if you're diagnosing your own stock photos after this, start with the eye, because that's where almost all of them actually fail. I've got a whole video on that right here. And remember, your best shot is still out there. Go find it. See you in the next one.